There's an awful lot to think about when you're buying a new showcase, and it's for many places a big investment. One of the big questions is, will you want to use the showcase to display objects that are covered by government indemnity, so loan objects, because that brings with it a series of requirements to do with security, how thick the glass is, what it's made out of, what the case is made out of, what the locks are, how many, that if you don't get that right, you won't be able to get the government indemnity or loan the object. So that's one thing to think about. Obviously, from a conservation point of view, the sensitivity of the objects and the environment in the room. If your room is relatively benign, your showcases don't have to do a lot of work. If your room is has a less good environment, we have lots of damp castles, the showcases have to do a lot of work to protect sensitive objects against that. So depending which organisation you're in and what your procurement rules are, you'll approach probably a number of manufacturers with some kind of basic specification. You know, the size of the case, how the door's going to open, will it have lighting, do you need to put silica gel in there, perhaps what the materials are that it's made of. You'll then have a little bit of a discussion about, they'll presumably come back to you with a price, you'll have a discussion about how long it's going to take. Towards the end of that process, they'll provide you with a drawing, and that usually forms more or less the contract. So you need to be sure the dimensions are what you want, that it's got everything you want. If you want lighting, it's there, that the colours are what you want. It will say what the metal colour is. If you're buying panels inside, it will say that. So once you've signed that, that is what they'll deliver. If you've made it 3mm too small or too big, it's very expensive to change it at that stage. And then at some point they will bring the case on site, deliver it, build it, or put it in and build it. Then normally you have a year's warranty. So generally once the case is fitted, there are often a few small issues, and you've basically got a year to get the manufacturer back to sort those out. At the end of that year, the case is then yours fully. There's no liability on the manufacturer to fix anything that you've not picked up before that stage. There are a number of really very practical things you need to think about. Is the showcase big enough to fit all of the objects that you want to get into it now? And what are future requirements likely to be? So for the objects that we have here, it's quite a, the whole door opens, there's a lot of access, the objects are quite small, it's quite straightforward. But if we had a much larger picture, we need to make sure that the case is not only big enough to actually physically fit that picture, but that somebody can safely put it in, there's enough space around it. So that's one issue. Particularly for historic buildings, we need to consider that some of the showcases are quite heavy. So will the floors actually be able to take the weight of the showcase? And will we be able to get the showcase to where we want it to be? Some of them come pre-built, and that will either need to fit through doors, fit in a lift. They'll need to deliver the showcase wherever they're going to park the vehicle, etc. Some of them can be built on site, so they'll bring the components and build them. But things like sheets of glass, if you're on the first or second floor and it's got to come up a set of stairs, it will limit the size of glass sheet that can come up there. And another thing to bear in mind is that many showcases now, ideally it's better to build them in a clean atmosphere. So if you've got a building project, then you're putting showcases in, you need most of the building work to have finished before they try and put the showcases in, and you'll get much better quality showcases if you ensure that's the case. Yes, you certainly need to talk to the manufacturers beforehand about this, because they will know best. You need to consider, if you've got lighting in the showcase, how long will that last? If it needs changing, how do you get to it? Do you need to open the showcase up? Do you need to take a panel out that's on the ceiling with all the objects underneath? Ideally, there's a separate access that you can open without doing those things. If you do have silica gel or absorbents in the showcase, how are you going to change those if you need to change them? Again, is there a separate access? All showcases age, and probably after maybe something like 10 years, you'll need to get the seals changed. It's quite useful once a year to maybe clean the surfaces to get rid of dust. And the other activity that you're probably going to have to do is, if you've got voids underneath or around the showcase, you need to be able to get access to those to clean them, else you'll get dust build up, you'll get problems with pests, you perhaps get problems with mould.